Welcome to the talk show Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. The goal of this show is to provide a learning experience to people of all ages, with guests from various fields in academics, a wide range of industries, and insight into the many forms of art, athletics, and entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. Movie director and producer Armand Mastroianni is our guest today. Armand not only launched the film career of Tom Hanks, but he also directed and produced many films throughout his career. Armand will talk about directing, as well as his experiences with some of Hollywood's legends.
Hello and welcome to the talk show, Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. Joining me today is director and producer Armand Mastroianni. Armand continues a career that spans decades of movie success and more. We have a lot to talk about, so let's bring him on. Armand Mastroianni, welcome. It's an honor to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Your incredible resume of work is so vast. But I am always interested in how it all started. Nobody gets, kids say, I want to be a fireman, a lawyer. Some may say, I want to be in the movies, but I don't know how many people say, I want to be a movie director. So what was the journey that brought you to filmmaking?
Well, I'll try to make it as short as possible, but growing up, I always loved images and I loved movies and I loved drawing pictures. I used to design and sketch pictures, and usually they were scenes from movies I had seen. And I always loved the experience of going and sitting in a theater and watching the curtains open and watching on this gigantic screen, people bigger than life acting out stories. And I used to tell stories in a very descriptive way, especially when I was very young. And then when I was in the Boy Scouts, I was always picked on to tell stories around the campfire, and I'd make a very descriptive, scary story about, and create the mood and set the images, and it would be very effective. So I realized I had that ability to communicate. And I said, I'd love to put images up on the screen and have them communicate to other people. So when I was young, there was only Super 8 and 8 millimeter cameras. There was bigger equipment, but I couldn't certainly afford it. And so I asked my dad to get me a little camera, and he said, for what? What do you need it for? And I said, to, take pictures. And he said, of the family and all? I said, yeah. But instead, what I would do is I would get my friends together and I'd write little scenarios and we'd act them out, obviously without sound because I didn't have the ability to record. And so I realized I could tell a story through pictures and through emotions, almost like the silent movies, and without the use of cue cards or placards. I get a call. I'm living in Brooklyn. My mom says it's Columbia Pictures, Otto Preminger's office. I said, are you kidding me? Is this a joke? And they said, she said, no. And I got on and they said, Mr. Preminger would like to meet you. I go up, meet him. I'm cutting a lot out here. Right. And he goes, oh my God. He says, your film made me laugh and cry. It's such a beautiful film. How did you come to make this? I'm going to introduce you to everybody. And he did. He introduced me to all the studios in New York City. He then hosted a party at his house on a Sunday afternoon with a buffet and showed my film to a bunch of his friends. And every one of them said, look, we are in the business of making feature films. We don't make shorts. This is a wonderful short. Why don't you come to us with a script? So I had met a playwright that I knew, and we became very friendly with. And we started knocking around ideas. And he said, what do you want to talk about? What's interesting to you? I said, well, the things I know, the people in my neighborhood. And so we wrote a story about two Italian families in Brooklyn. And it was a foreshadow of Moonstruck. Anyway, I knew that Vincent Gardenia lived in the neighborhood. And I said, he'd be so perfect to play Big Frank, the father. So I somehow got it to him. And, he was a little reluctant to see it because, people soliciting stuff off the street. About a week and a half, 2 weeks later, I get a telephone call. It says, hello, Armand, this is Vince Gardenia. I said, oh, hi, how are you? He said, I got to tell you, your script is fantastic. We loved it. I gave it to my agents at the William Morris Agency, and they want to meet you. So I go up to meet with them, and they sign me, and they put the picture into production. They get the picture set up with Palomar Pictures, Edgar Sherrick, Dan Blatt, and they had a director they were working with named Ivan Passer, and they said, we're going to have him direct it. Obviously, they weren't going to let me direct. I wasn't proven. And so the film got very close to being made and then fell apart. And a couple of times the same thing happened. But eventually I met someone else who was a production manager and said, listen, you have all these great shorts you made. You wrote the script. Do you want to make a movie? And I said, do I want to make a movie? Of course I want to make a movie. He's, well, I've got these two Broadway producers who, like have $75,000 each. They want to make a horror film. You want to do it? And I said, sure. So I go to meet them and I said, well, what's your idea? And I said, my idea? Yeah. What's the movie? What's the movie about? So I realized this was my shot. And I pitched them the story I used to tell at the campfire. And I realized at that point, they had heard this story. It's an old fable. And I'm going, and the guy comes with the sickle and the girl screams. And then I said, we pull back and we find out we're watching this in a theater. And that's on the screen. And the real killer has just sat behind these two unsuspecting girls. And they went, wow, I love that. That's a great surprise. And so I wrote the script with a friend, Scott Parker. And the film went into production. And we shot on Staten Island for like no money. We borrowed people's houses, cars, everything, And the next thing I know, MGM buys the movie once it's finished. And we're all flown out to Hollywood. Now, I mean, that's a rare story for most people to begin. You don't just jump in like that. Usually there's a stepping thing. Well, I did my stepping thing by making the smaller films. But anyway, when the film got sold to MGM, they brought me out. They put me at the Beverly Hills Hotel. They brought out the whole cast, including the young man who I gave a job to on that film, who was not in the Screen Actors Guild, but I just liked him so much. And I said, you've got to be in this movie. You got to be. And I had a fight with the producers because they didn't want to pay the Taft-Hartley, and that was Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. And so what happened out of that was that I got a telephone call saying that William Friedkin, director of The Exorcist and The French Connection, wants to meet me. He saw my film and loved it. And he did. And he said, this picture scared the shit out of me. I want you to make a movie for me. And that led to my next movie, which I wrote with my friend. And we did. And prior to it going into production, Billy suffered a heart attack and he had to pull back. He had to pull out. He couldn't, he had to rest for a while. but I'm giving you the project. You take it, you can get this set up instantly. And I did. I went back. The two producers who made the first movie, which was very successful for them, He Knows You're Alone, came on board and we made The Killing Hour. And then it just started rolling after that. I started getting a call from someone else. And I got called out to Los Angeles to make a movie for a Sandy Howard company. And then after that, another company called me while I was filming that one, and it just snowballed. Now, the reason I believe that this happened was maybe threefold. One is the personality. When you meet people, they either take to you or they feel, oh boy, this guy's going to be a lot of trouble. The other thing is you have to have some kind of talent in order to pull it off. And how well you interact with the people, the actors, and how well you convey and communicate your ideas. And I think I was successful on all three because I immediately would have them talk to me about another project that they have, the producers. So it led me to a string of maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 a year. I was doing so much work. And do you want me to stop there, or do you want me to just bring you up?
Well, I'm sure some of those other things you're going to say are going to be answers to some of my other questions. So that's okay. A tremendous overview. And as you said, you launched the movie career of Tom Hanks. And in your career, you've worked with so many of Hollywood's what we'd call top celebrities and heavy hitters, and directors. So I want to ask you, what is some of your fondest memories? Your movie making memories, be they artistic, an answer being an artistic answer, or individuals you've worked with and for. What are the best memories you've had so far in your career?
Mark, when you love something so much and it's your dream and it's your passion, I think every project is like a little child to you. It's like a baby. You have that baby, you cherish it and you enjoy it, or you see the things you want to fix or help or change. And every project was a new adventure for me because I'd get a new crew, or I'd or I'd work with the same crew, but I'd get new actors, I'd get this, I'd get that. I'd have a new story to tell. It wasn't the same thing over and over, like it is sometimes when you do series. You're stuck really with a situation that's repetitive, only continuous. So you have the same actors, you have the same sets, the same situation, which wasn't always as interesting to me. I always tried to make it different as an individual film, because an individual film, you start from scratch. You start, this is a new location. These are the characters in this film. These are the situations. Is this film going to be funny, scary? Is it going to be a courtroom drama? What are we doing here? And then I'd get psyched up to make the film. So what is my favorite, or what are the favorites? I think parts of each film are my favorite. But one that really stood out to me that I loved doing so much, even though it was very hard to make, was a project I didn't want to make because I was so tired. I had worked, and my agent sent me a thick script and said, I want you to read this script. I said, I can't read this. It's a phone book. I don't want to, I'm so tired. I want to go back home to New York. And he said, please read the script. The NBC, they want to make it. It was one of their epic miniseries. It's called The Ring. Danielle Steele's The Ring. And I went, Danielle Steele, I don't want to read that. It's a love story. But I opened it up. It was early in the morning. I'll remember because I was still on New York time. I had flown out to do editing. And it said Berlin, 1931. Hitler is just coming to power, blah, blah, blah. The family moves into the, and I'm, oh, and I started reading. And I became so involved. I said, oh, this is going to be a good movie. And the twists and turns of what happens, it's kind of epic. So I think that film was one that really is very dear to me, and I still get letters and people write to me and stuff. That film is one of my favorite films of yours. I cry. I mean, it's so beautifully made. It's got such wonderful love for family and for for the human nature and existence, and shows how evil other people could be. That was an experience, and I got to work with Nastasia Kinski, who was. I had loved her in that movie Tess, the Roman Polanski film. And I said, boy, what a beautiful, and the cat people, And I said, oh my God, and we became such beautiful friends. And my journey through making some of these other films were, I'd be cautioned by other directors or producers saying, oh my God, you don't want to work with that actress. You don't want to work with this actor or that actor. It was so different for me. I love
that you said that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it gets into the next thing I wanted to talk about, because I often say that my viewers know the glory, but not the story. So directing movies is an art form in and of itself. But what are some of the aspects of directing that we probably don't know? And more specifically, I think it speaks to you, because I think your philosophy of directing differs from others. And I think you're about to talk about that now.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. For me, directing is not directing, but directing. Okay, now I'll explain that. I don't want to come to you and say, Mark, I want you to get up and I want you to get the cup and drink the cup on this line. And I want you to move over here. And I want you to, that's a lot of robotic training and telling people what to do. I want to give the actor as much space to feel comfortable in the environment that I'm putting him in, so that that all of this becomes second nature to him, the way he grabs the cup, when he drinks. But I also have a plan. But my psychology is involve the actor in the creation of all this, so that the actor is contributing. He's giving you something. He's not being dictated or directed, even though he is. Mm-hmm. I'm giving you the opportunity to bring forth your feelings and your things. Now, if we have to alter them a little bit here and there, I'll do that. But it's my communication. I've always felt the proper way to speak to actors is never to sit in a director's chair and go, Mark, let's try doing that again. Make it funnier this time, which is a horrible direction because it's a non-director direction. I would never do that. I would always be near the camera, and I'd always say, hey, Mark, come over here for a minute. Let's talk. And you and I'd share an idea with you. And I wouldn't let the other actors know, because the minute you sit there and announce what you want, the entire crew, that actor's on the spot to see if he can produce what you just asked him to. And, it's intimidating. Instead, I go there and I whisper something in the actor's ear, or I let them have something to work with. And they go back and we try a take where the other actors are unaware of what I've just said to him or her. And we watch the reaction, and it's genuine. It happens in that first moment because you're unprepared. If I suddenly come at you with an accusation, which you weren't prepared for, or my tone is different to you than how we were speaking. So I try to do that because I always felt directing is suggesting and involving. It's not telling, and that was my way with actors. And that's why I think I was extremely successful with so many actors, and so many that were deemed, undirectable or difficult and stuff like that. And I was surprised because one time I didn't want to make this movie, and this company, NBC, kept coming after me. You have my agent said, you can't. I said, well, why? He said, because the actress won't make the movie unless you direct it. And I said, and I didn't know her. I had never met her. She had heard from her friends who I'd worked with, you've got to work with this guy. And we became such good friends. And she was deemed difficult, very difficult.
I love that because in a former life, I taught for well over 30 years, and I've done books, and sometimes I've said to the kids, draw a picture of what you would do if you turned this play into a movie, and you as the director. And I have to tell you, Armand, easily 95% of the pictures said, this is me directing. They were seated, or they were looking into the monitor. And that is like the Mastroianni method, which is the opposite of what you believe should be done.
Well, to be quite honest, Mark, when I first started, we didn't have monitors in 1979, 1980. We didn't use them. They came in a little later on. And when they first came on, I started watching them, but I felt I was watching the shot, the image, which I would create because, I have the idea of the scene in my head. But a lot of filmmakers and young people today want to make movies, get caught up in that. And I caution them. I said, don't get caught up in the shot. Get caught up in telling the story and communicating to the actor what you want them to give you. Because the shot, I could take a photograph and look at it. What is that? That's a shot. And too many people get involved with the technical end. They love the technical end and they disregard the artistic end of it, which is the communication. Mm-hmm. And I think, if you don't have a good story and you're not a good storyteller and you can't communicate, you don't have a movie. I don't care how beautiful the crane shot is or the steady cam that goes on for 10 minutes. All those things are meaningless because they don't, that's why a lot of the films that we have today are not personalized. They are all shot driven and they're quickly cut because the people's attention spans are so limited and they become depersonalized. The great films, like when we used to stay up and watch the Oscars, we couldn't pick the winner because there were 5 or 6 or 10 great movies. Lately, in the last few years, I don't find movies that I'm at all interested in. And I think they've all become, come into the sense of mediocrity. They're all like, okay, it was an okay film. It wasn't great, but there was a time when great storytelling and great films existed. And I hope we can get back to that.
That is outstanding. And, kind of begs the question, as if you haven't done enough, what is next for Armand Mastroianni?
Well, what's next? I have a series of projects that I have in various stages of development. But I'll be honest with you, Mark, I think, there's a thing I feel that's happened to this business. And that is, I've said this many times, you don't retire, it retires you. Because once you get to be a certain age and you get to, they perceive you as being, he's an old white guy, and not that we shouldn't be making room for young people. I love that. I always invite young people to come on the set and intern and learn because that's how I learned. And that's what I did. I was very fortunate. Francis Coppola allowed me to stay on the set of The Godfather when I snuck out of school to watch him make it. And he was so generous. For 3 days, he had invited me back, and then on Godfather 2. And I just felt, I want to be part of this. I want to do this. And so what am I doing today? I'm developing projects. I'm working with writers, trying to get other stuff. But, I've seen a change in the industry. I've seen where the industry has gone, and I've seen, its insistence on trying to appeal to a certain group of people that, want this and that, and they want message movies and stuff like that. And also they want their people to be people that they hang out with. Like say you and I are good friends and we go, you would feel comfortable knowing my reputation, knowing my the history of hiring me. But I don't know the new people in the industry today. And they're going to say like him, well, that was years ago. He did all that stuff in the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, and the early 2000s, and I think the last thing I did was in 2016 or 2012, or anyway. But I'm always and I've done other things. I've done stuff with friends, actors who I've come in and helped them, put their little movies together, their presentations and stuff. Recently with Candace Azara, and I've enjoyed that, because anytime I'm around that environment, I love it.
That's outstanding. So I'm good. You still as passionate as I'm sure you've ever been before, and it's great that you still branch out to some of these other things. So Armand, I can't thank you enough for joining us today and sharing your journey, and more as a director, more important to me, your passion as a director. So again, it was a true honor to have you here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, and I enjoyed the conversation. And it's if I can inspire any people and young people today, that's what I'm all about. I think that's wonderful. Keeping the communication going.
That's what we want. To the viewers, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@lifestorieswithmarchoberman.com or visit him on social media through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.